Welcome to another Monday mindfulness meditation, as opposed to a Tuesday mindfulness meditation, which is what it is in Australia. It's great to see you all once again.
See you too.
Sometimes it feels like lifetimes pass between sessions. I'm going to ask you to mute yourselves for this first part, and then we'll come back to the circle sharing after we practice together. And we'll start with a few words, a few more words. My husband tells me that I'm full of words, which is totally true, since I've just been editing my book. And oh, by the way, I just delivered it to my editor. So now it's in her hands, at least for the time being, and I'm pretty relieved and excited about that. But anyway, let's move on to some words for tonight. Where am I here in the scheme of things? Yes, let's start with a bell. It's always a good place to begin. So welcome once again, everyone. Find a comfortable position. Take a few breaths. Let go of all of the thoughts and feelings and lists and plans that relate to the past or the future. And take another breath and just come into this precious time that we have to be together. And here's the bell. So here in the United States, anyway, we have Thanksgiving coming up. And it's always a special time of year when I like to reflect on what I'm thankful for. And I want to tonight just say that I'm deeply grateful for our time together, for being with all of you, and for the gift of this Sangha, this gift of this opportunity to be together every week in this way. There's times when I kind of feel like, oh, do I have to do this again? You know, when I'm juggling a lot of different things and everything. And I always return to, yes, it's good medicine. It keeps me in the place that I would like to be during these times in particular. Every lifetime has its challenges, right, throughout time. But we find ourselves in a very particular passage in these very days, weeks, months, years. And this is one of the best medicines that I know, to be able to navigate the big changes that we're going through and do so together. So I'm really, really deeply grateful for your presence in my life and for the chance to be able to be with you in this way. Thank you. So, yeah, in these times of great unraveling and tension and uncertainty, I want to talk about feeding the spirit of what we want to see in the world and how we do that. How are we ever going to make the changes collectively that we know we have to make if we don't stop? We really have to learn how to stop, because otherwise the habit energy is so strong. It just keeps us going and going and going. So it's like we're on this path, right? And we come to a crossroads and we're wondering, which way do we go? Do we go towards clarity and purpose and happiness in order to take the path that actually transforms those old habits and takes us in a different direction? Or do we take the old worn path that we know just leads to more confusion and pain and suffering? That's a good question. And to be able to recognize which path is which, and to know that we're choosing this path, not just for ourselves, but for Mother Earth, for all beings. Because as we know, these times are making us all the more aware of our interconnectedness, our interdependence, our interbeing relationship. So how do we stop contributing to more suffering and insanity? How do we really stop? And we can start by asking ourselves, is what I'm doing contributing to more tension and aggression in the world, or more peace and sanity? What is the spirit that we're feeding in our lives? I've been reading a little bit of Pema Chodron. I don't know if all of you know her work. She's got some great books, all of which have fantastic titles and wonderful teachings. And I found this story. A Native American grandfather was speaking to his grandson about violence and cruelty in the world and how it comes about. He said it was as if two wolves were fighting in his heart. One wolf was vengeful and angry, and the other wolf was understanding and kind. The young man asked his grandfather which wolf would win the fight in his heart. And the grandfather answered, "The one that wins will be the one that I choose to feed." So, our training in this practice is to feed the wolf that we want to win, the one that we choose to feed, that brings understanding and is kind and is understanding and kind. That's the one we want to feed. And that's the one we're cultivating and practicing with here on this path of compassion. Marion Naranjo, a Native American friend of mine, and Elizabeth Christines and others, also talks about this notion of feeding the spirit of what we want to see in the world. It's a really important notion to contemplate and to form a relationship with. Because so often our habits make us go unconscious. And we don't even realize what we're doing. We don't even realize what spirit we're feeding. We're not aware of the tension we're creating in the world or the aggression that is operating in our system, even if we think we're really doing well. Often we're in such reactivity. So the meditation practice is a helpful tool to learn how to relax and calm down that reactivity, to find that place of calm abiding and peace within, to have a little time out from all those reactive emotions and disentangle ourselves from the habits that perpetuate suffering and distress in ourselves and in those around us, and by extension in the world. The qualities of intelligence and warmth, warm-heartedness, openness, understanding, and love are what we uncover in our practice. It's like we're just simply peeling back the layers of our own Buddha nature when we sit and breathe and walk and breathe and come back over and over again and not engage in those reactive emotions for a little while. Not follow them incessantly, not let them run our lives, but choose that other path. And for a little time out, we cultivate something else, so that the emotional reactions that so often get in the way of doing the right thing, being present, responding instead of reacting, can relax. As we relax, so can they. And then we begin to see more clearly. When we get triggered, whether it's something inside us or something that somebody else is doing or saying that we're in relationship to, or something larger in the world around us, when we get triggered, pressing pause can be very, very helpful to reset and to remember the view, as we say in the Dharma, the view, the larger view. And every time we take a breath, we can remember that view if we know what the view is. But first, we have to practice to see the view. We have to taste it, feel it, see it, and then we can come back to it. So Thich Nhat Hanh taught us the practice of the bell, just for this very purpose. And the bell is used a lot in his tradition, but in retreats at his Dharma centers, they will ring a bell throughout the day. And whenever you hear the sound of the bell, you stop and take a breath and return to the present moment. And the bell, the sound of the bell, is the invitation to return to the present moment and to stop. And then take 3 breaths and then go on. And the bell is the tool that we have to train with. He always talks about the bell as a bodhisattva, an awakened being who is reminding us to come back to ourselves. And so the bell is very highly regarded in that tradition because the sound is helping us to remember the view. When we hear the sound of the bell, no matter what we're doing, whether we're eating or talking or walking or whatever it is, in the midst of anything throughout the day, we stop and take 3 breaths in and out, deep and slow, and then we return to whatever it was. So whenever we hear that sound, it's an invitation to stop. It's not enforced in any kind of heavy-duty way in retreats, but everybody practices it, and we all take 3 breaths, and then we go on. And it's such a skillful way of cutting through all those reactive patterns and seeing how we get so caught up in our activities and our self-importance and our stories and our attachments. All the things that keep us going around and around and around and around. So we hear the bell and we stop and we pause. And we also might notice our habit of speed, hardly ever stopping at all anymore. Like we're all just so stressed out, going constantly. And how we also run from discomfort. We don't want to have to face certain things, our own patterns, for example. And so we keep ourselves busy. But when we do stop, we allow space for something else to happen. And that's where our hearts are, our warm-heartedness. So we can make a choice. We always have a choice. Do we want to go down that path? Or do we want to go down that path? And to be aware of the path that we are walking, to be aware of the spirit that we're feeding. But we can't be aware unless we see the view, see through those habits and patterns. And to do that, we have to stop. Well, that's also the beauty of sitting meditation, where we actually literally do come into our seat and stop for a period of time, not just for 3 breaths. So here's the bell, the little mindfulness bell. And here's the practice with the bell. And I encourage you to take up this practice. So first of all, you never strike the bell. You never hit the bell, because the bell is a bodhisattva. And would you hit a bodhisattva? No. You also are practicing nonviolence. So you don't hit the bell. You invite the bell to sound. And so this is to wake up the bell, where you give it a little hint of a sound to let people know that a full sound is coming, so it's not shocking and too much. And before you invite the bell, there's a gata. I'm pretty sure it's in the gatas that I have given you, but if it's not, I'll post it. And that gatas are little poems that you do on the breath. And the gata for ringing or inviting the bell goes like this. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart out along with the sound of this bell. May all who hear it awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and suffering. And so you you memorize that and you say that to yourself before you invite the bell. And that brings you into oneness with the bell. And then you invite the bell. And when you hear the sound of the bell, you say to yourself, listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true self. And as you say that, you breathe in and out, deep and slow, 3 times. And then you go on. So let's just do it now. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart out along with the sound of this bell. May all who hear it awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and suffering. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true self. At the retreat centers of Thich Nhat Hanh, they now have these clocks in the dining hall that ring a bell sound every 15 minutes. But there's also these other bells in different activities throughout the day. And, you just come to stop and appreciate, the opportunity to practice in that way. You can also use other things as bells of mindfulness, like the telephone. When the phone rings, instead of just automatically going and picking it up, you breathe in and out, let it ring 3 times. And then you pick up the phone and you realize you're much more present for whatever's on the other side of the phone. Same with opening your computer. Maybe you want to take 3 breaths before you open your computer. Standing in line when you're waiting, you can breathe and come back to the present moment. When you come to a red light in an intersection and you have to stop, then you can take it as an opportunity to practice, to come back. So this is a way to begin. We have to start somewhere. So we might as well start with ourselves, start the practice of stopping right here with ourselves. And see where that path leads. Thank you.